Hello, hello, everyone. This is Ariel, and you've dropped into Healing Body, Mind, and Soul with Ariel. I'm so excited because today my dear friend Dr. Mike is back. We are hearing a lot from Dr. Mike. He is America's holistic hero, and you might know him from the Super Mike Show. And today, Dr. Mike and I are going to discuss Tourmaline. Is that correct, Dr. Mike?
Tourmaline, like the Tour de France, but Tourmaline.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know about Tourmaline. Like that is a very powerful healing stone in crystal therapy, but I don't know anything. I have a feeling that you're going to give me a different take on Tourmaline today.
I think we will. But first, to start off with, I have two sides of me. One side of me is very logical, kind of like Spock, live long and prosper. I'm not sure if you can do that or not. But the other side of me is very much into what's out there, because being a martial artist and seeing things that you think might be impossible, I've seen a lot of crazy things in my life. So I think it's difficult to use the word impossible unless it's under very rare circumstances, all right? Because improbable, I like to say. But going back to history, because I like things proven to me. I don't like, somebody saying, oh yeah, this thing does this, that, the other thing. Well, show me, prove it to me, because you hear a lot of stories about snake oil, and especially, and you've been involved in the healing arts and hear all kinds of stories from people about different things and different treatments. And there's a lot of things out there that are real, and there's a lot of things out there that are not real. And
like everything in life.
Just like everything else in life, right? There's the real McCoy. I just heard something on the radio yesterday that they're saying this expensive wine from China, they have actually chips on it. You can scan the chip, because counterfeit wine is a big problem today. And they could have, a wine that might be selling for $750, but it might only be worth like $30.
Right. Or some of that $2 Chuck. Yeah, some of that stuff.
Say that 10 times fast.
You have to be discerning.
Yes, with the fake meat, they had that a couple of years ago about the slimy meat, the one that was, remember that whole thing with that they would take the 15% of it, and it would be basically all the scraps, and they would have to use ammonia on it to disinfect it, and they mix it in with the other chuck. You brought up chuck, though.
Oh.
So anyway, I thought that crystals, because back when I was in chiropractic school, I heard people talking about crystals, about healing energy of minerals, and I thought that was a bunch of bull. I didn't believe it. But
say it isn't so, Dr. Mike.
Well, it isn't so. But then it took me time to mature to the point in my life where I realized that everything that you think is the way it is isn't necessarily the way it is. And I had a paradigm shift that occurred, because in 2016, I had a very bad pain in my shoulder. And we talked at a previous podcast about coincidence, that there's no such word for coincidence in the Hebrew language. And then I had a discussion with a patient just left a little while ago on a word I learned just recently from another doctor who's an eye doctor who's also Jewish, and he speaks Hebrew, and it's bishart. I'm not sure if I've ever heard that word. It's destiny. And somebody could be your bishart, not your t-shirt though, but your bishart, because I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that properly, because they were supposed to be your soulmate from before you were even born. It's basically predestined. Okay. So he told me a very funny story about that, about him having to say that in a play that he was in. But he mispronounced it, and he didn't say bishart, and he said something else, which has to do with feces.
We'll let the listeners fill in the blanks there.
Which is kind of coincidental. But anyway, I had a very bad pain in my left shoulder. I might even mention this to you before, that I think I told you about this, and I put the piece of tape on my shoulder. You remember this story? Or
I'm not sure. Go ahead.
So I put the tape on my shoulder. It was Tourmaline infused tape, and I started feeling better. But I thought it was maybe a placebo effect. So then I started investigating it. I started practicing on my patients with it, and little did I know that the person that developed it would eventually become my business partner in this Tourmaline business, which is called FIR Industries, and it stands for Far Infrared, FIR. Because tourmaline is a semi-precious stone, and it's been used all over the world. All the continents of the world have tourmaline. In the United States, the tourmaline mines are basically found in Maine and also in California. And some people say California prospectors.
Nobody says that
anymore. Not the real people from California, but anyway, I found out that a lot of tourmaline, and when I got it, it said watermelon tourmaline on it, and I thought actually there's maybe a mineral called tourmaline that came from watermelons. I realized it looks like a watermelon with a rind,
watermelon tourmaline is
and the red in the middle, and it actually looks like a watermelon cut in half. A lot of people think that God sent us a it's sort of a lot of like signs for people, because we weren't that bright way back when. We're getting smarter, hopefully. A lot of people say we haven't even discovered the knowledge of the lost continent of Atlantis or what they were doing, because we can't even.
Oh, we got to have another show. I will tell you what I think about Atlantis. It's not today I'm interviewing you, but I got some ideas.
Can't even replicate the mummification process today as they did back then. And as far as when we get into building the pyramids, that's a whole other show about the energy of the pyramids. But if you do take a drone and you put it above the pyramids, or the Great Pyramid, and then you go higher, the EMF meter actually records. I was going above the visual field of the listeners and the watchers of the podcast, but it actually gets higher when you go above, because the focus is above the pyramid, and how they're all lined up with the north and south. That's a story for another day. But anyway, with the tourmaline is very powerful, and I didn't realize the power of it, but my shoulder was getting better. And so it was watermelon tourmaline, because there's black tourmaline, white tourmaline, all different colors tourmaline. Tourmaline has 3 different shapes of the crystals. It can be like a pyramid. It can be more of a column or a cylinder. And tourmaline has all different types of minerals, has aluminum, has iron, and people say, oh, I don't want to get aluminum in my body, but the aluminum is bound in the tourmaline. It can't come off and enter your body.
I think there's boron, right?
Boron, yes, boron. And there's all different types of minerals that are called tourmaline, but they look like a lot of different gemstones. But they're not. It's a semi-precious stone. It's not like a diamond or a ruby or a sapphire.
Right. Depending on what the mineral content is, it comes up in different color configurations.
Right, different color configurations. But what they have in common, all the tourmalines, is that they have 3 energies that they give off. And depending upon the type of tourmaline you have, will be different percentages of the different energies. And the first energy is that it gives off far infrared, and that's why our company is called FIR Industries, which stands for far infrared.
Right.
And the tourmaline will absorb body heat and give off far infrared. It's a thermal, A-L, photonic conversion. And Einstein said many, many years ago that you can't create matter or energy, but it can be changed from one form to another. So one form of energy can be transformed to another form, and matter and energy have a relationship by E = mc squared, his formula, which is very famous. That most people think of Einstein, they think of E = mc squared.
Right.
So the relationship between mass and energy, and I did the conversions for this. 1 gram of mass is equivalent to approximately the energy given off by the first generation atomic bombs. It's a tremendous amount of energy, 1 gram. And the movie 21 Grams, which is also a story for another day, which this Dr. Duncan McDougall weighed people upon death in 1907 and found they lost 21 grams of mass. And there was a movie called 21 Grams. So you can think of, if the soul is 21 grams and this is just a little side note, that first generation atomic bombs, which I'm against atomic bombs, but is just something that people can understand. A tremendous
I
amount
know,
of
it's the power, the
energy
force that's contained within that is like immense, right?
immense.
And
So
we also talked a little bit about dark, like black holes. That's the same
yes,
thing, right? It implodes, and the power is intense,
right.
right?
And that dark matter and dark energy constitute approximately 94% of the mass of the universe, where elemental matter only about 6%. And we still don't know really what dark matter, dark energy is, and that's a story for another day. But anyway, you have three forms. Like I said, the first is converting body heat or any type of heat into far infrared. And as long as we have body heat, we're giving it off, and we have tourmaline next to us, we can generate that far infrared energy. And that's extremely therapeutic, and it's a surface area phenomena. In our products, we use nanometer-sized particles, which is the smallest particle that can be created with today's technology. So you have a meter, 1,000th of that is a millimeter, 1,000th of that is a micron, and 1,000th of that is a nanometer. Very tiny particles. But to just give you an idea of the scope of the math, if you take a nanometer cube to build a micron cube, it takes a billion with the B to build it, because it's 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. So we have a tremendous amount of surface area when you go from the particles of micron to nanometer size. When we say nanometer particles, we're not talking about 1 nanometer. We're talking about 30 to 50 nanometer in diameter. And they're not perfect cubes. They're all irregularly shaped. So the second energy is the conversion of mechanical energy into negative ions. And that is why, one of the reasons why tourmaline is called the electric stone, it's called, because it can generate ions. Now, the Earth...
What shape are the particles? Because doesn't that matter? Isn't that what...
well, the particles, the crystals are three different shapes. One's like a pyramid, one's like a cylinder, and one is like a more of a column. Okay. Thinner than the larger ones, which are more...
Are you talking about the stone, they're carved into those shapes? I'm talking about
I'm talking about the actual crystals within the stone.
The structure? Oh, okay.
From the microscopic level. Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Like the building blocks, just like, you know, with the building blocks of DNA, you have the building blocks of the crystal, which would be the stone that you would have, and that would be in different shapes. And, you know, just like a gemologist would cut that to different shapes, just like they do with diamonds.
Right.
You do different shapes. So you can get them in the raw form or in the jewelry type, which is usually cut into, you know, different shapes.
Right.
Depending upon your preference. So the second is the negative ions. Now, negative ions scavenge free radicals, make the body more alkaline, and act as a natural antioxidant. But those energies together, the two energies, will reduce oxidative stress, increase blood flow, decrease inflammation, and accelerate healing. Those two energies alone. But the third energy is the most mysterious energy.
Ooh.
Because every thing with the North and South Pole gives off what? An energy field. The Earth gives off an energy field, which is called the Van Allen belt, which protects us against cosmic radiation. Because the North and South Pole, the North Pole, a lot of people think that's positive. It's actually negative. The South Pole is positive. But don't worry about it, because the North Pole will be positive in the future, because the Earth's North and South Poles have flipped many times through the history of the planet. And you can tell because iron crystals in lava and magma, they have different orientation, where the North and South Pole will be flipped one way or the other, depending upon the period of time that it was solidified from, magma flowed. And we're way overdue for a flip. And when it flips, it's not going to be a pretty sight, because probably all the telecommunications is going to break down, all the satellites will be fried, and because the satellites are still within the Van Allen belt, and we're going to have a lot of illness, because it protects us against cosmic radiation, which can cause cancer. So let's not be all doom and gloom. Hopefully it's not going to be within our lifetime that this is going to flip. But whenever it does flip, just like California, they're saying, the San Andreas fault line is going to go someday. Hopefully not today. But
when I was a child, I think I've told this story, but I'll tell this story to you. When I was a child, I had this cousin, and I was young, probably like 7 or 8 at the time, but she showed me these maps that she had gotten her hands on. She was probably in her late teens, and she's like, yeah, California is going to fall into the ocean, and you have to, like, it was all mapped out, and she's all, we have to move here. And I was like 8, and I was like, oh my God, we have to move now because California is going to fall in the ocean.
And move to Arizona because the beachfront property would be in Arizona then, right?
Yeah. Now that I'm adult, I should look into purchasing some land in Arizona just in case.
But each crystal has a north and south pole, and everything from the earth to a bar magnet has a north and south pole, gives off an energy field.
Yeah.
And actually animals can sense the energy of the tourmaline, and they migrate by the earth's electromagnetic field. So they can pick that up, and animals can sense things that humans simply cannot. And we talk about that in our video about the pet mats. Speaking of which, just to go a little forward, here's a pet mat, and this is what we produce, and they gravitate towards this, the pets. And actually, one of my patients had a blanket. I'll show you what the blankets look like too. And this is our cannoli cream, because it comes in 4 colors. We have cannoli cream. I have to get you a blanket.
I need a blanket. I think I have critters. I have critters at my house too, so I'm going to get a pet bed.
We'll talk about that later. I'm going to get where to ship it to. But anyway, we have 4 colors. We have cannoli cream. That's to be fancy names. We have silver gray. We have seafoam green, which is an aqua. And then we have the color of the year from last year, which is ultraviolet, the Pantone color of the year, but it's 2 words. Because ultraviolet is 1 word, but they have ultraviolet for 2 words. And the great thing about the blanket, we'll talk about that in a couple minutes, what that does. But so the third energy is mysterious, because I know we're going to be running out of time, and there's so much to talk about all the time. We really need a longer period of time, but
we need our own show. We need like a solid series, Dr. Mike. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about something that I learned about sacred geometry and DNA. I can't even wait to share it with you, but not on our Tourmaline show.
Okay, yeah, because I know a lot about that also, and I think I know you talking about the number sequence you're talking about.
Yeah. Let's save it.
Okay.
Dr. Mike and I tend to we digress.
Or progress, depending upon how you look at it. The third energy, each north-south pole gives off an energy field. But when we went to, because we used air filters in cars to figure out the best percentage of tourmaline to use.
Oh. And
we found when we increased the tourmaline that we actually decreased the effectiveness of the mineral increasing gas mileage, because I had gone from there's a whole other business we have now, air filters, which we're developing. It's not on the market yet, but my Honda Odyssey EPA estimate 27 miles per gallon. I drove up to Boston, where my daughter goes to college, and I got 38 miles per gallon in a 208 mile trip, which is unheard of. And that was the best mileage I got. So we figured out the best percentage. So we went down in percentage tourmaline, the efficacy went up. So the job of scientists is the beginning of science is to make sense out of nonsense. I think I made that up. I think it's a quote from me, but anyway.
We can quote you. We'll give you credit for that.
So when we went down, the far infrared goes down because less tourmaline. The negative ions go down. But the efficacy was increased, the gas mileage went up, and the best percentage to get the best gas mileage gets the best effectiveness on humans and animals. So my theory, and I told this to actually a Harvard professor, Dr. Michael Hamlin, who's the head of photomedicine at Harvard, I had a discussion with him about this, and I said when the particles are too close together, the energy fields interfere with each other. When they're too far apart, they don't become synergistic. But when that Goldilocks distance apart, not too hot, not too cold, they're just right, you get the best effectiveness. And he originally said to me that, oh, you gotta be careful when you start talking about mysterious energy fields. So I said to him, do you have a better explanation? They told me I might be onto something, which I think I am.
I think you are. I'm gonna second that.
But that third,
I'm not a scientist. I'm an intuitive, so I guess I'm coming at it from another.
And we have to, I think the next one is going to be on intuitive healing. We talk about that too.
Okay.
Which I do a lot of every day. I do intuitive healing. But as I say,
well, Dr. Mike, I've been an intuitive healer for 30 years now, so that's pretty much what I do. So.
Well, you have me beat by a long shot because I've only been doing it about 4 years. But I picked it up right away.
Yeah.
So I think from all the stuff I did for martial arts really helped me with my intuitive healing.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing with the Tourmaline is that we have all empirical evidence now. We don't have double-blind studies, which we need a lot of money for that, which we have lined up. We raise the money to do the double-blind studies. But with a blanket, I found that the feedback I get is with type 2 diabetics. And this is all empirical evidence. I'm not making any claim to treat diabetes, but type 2 diabetics have repeatedly reported back from the first day use, it drops their blood sugar substantially. And we've had people with scars that have disappeared. We have people with all kinds of different problems that have got unbelievable results. Autistic children are sleeping through the night for the first time ever. From Harvard also, Dr. Martha Herbert, who's one of the world's foremost authorities on autism, is a great advocate of our products. And she said I can tell people that, you know, she has a gold seal of approval on it. And the way it works is, I forgot to put my phone on.
It's okay.
Vibrate. The way it works is that, my theory is mitochondrial dysfunction. Now the mitochondria are the part of the cell that burn fuel for energy. And when your cells are alive, there are 3 priorities. First priority is staying alive. Second priority, do your job. Third priority is to heal if you have enough energy left over to heal. But unfortunately, many times we don't have enough energy left over to heal. So what the Tourmaline does, I think it increases the activity of the mitochondria to help the mitochondria produce ATP faster. Because ATP is the molecule of life, adenosine triphosphate. Because the mitochondria convert ADP, diphosphate, to ATP, triphosphate. And every living thing on the planet runs off of ATP. That's the currency of life. Now, what do I think is involved with mitochondrial dysfunction? It's not my idea, it's what science has shown, the so-called diseases of modern life. And what are they? Well, yes, Ariel, I have to say at least one time in each podcast.
I know,
yes.
Mike interviews himself.
Right. The first thing, going with the A's, is autism. Mm-hmm. Second thing is autoimmune disease. Third, Alzheimer's disease. But then you get to cardiovascular disease. You get to cancer with the C's. You get to a lot of digestive disturbances, a lot of problems. Like you have leaky gut syndrome, which is all involved with, that's involved with a lot of other things too, leaky gut, which is, you know.
We talked about that a little bit on the last show. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that another day, but we've had a lot of people get unbelievable results with all these so-called diseases of diabetes, is the D's. So the A's, the C's, the D's, and you cover just about all of them, are the diseases that ancient people never had so much and modern people do. A lot of it has to do with a sad story, and sad is the standard American diet, what we're eating today, because the average woman today, I might have mentioned this before in a previous podcast, the average woman today weighs what the average man did in the early 1960s, which is 162 point something pounds. And the average man's in the 190s. And half the country is diabetic or pre-diabetic, which is horrible. So my personal goal with my show, the 2 things I want to do is to save humanity from extinction, because that's where we're headed, towards extinction, and save the planet from the ravages of humanity. And the animals, we can't forget about the animals, to be kind to the animals.
Yes, please don't forget about the critters, Dr. Mike.
Cannot forget about the critters. So I know we covered a lot of different things so far today. How much time do we have left?
I think we're just about ready to wrap it up. But
I thought so.
But I think that this is a great topic for people to look at. And I love what you're onto with this Tourmaline. I have some of my ideas too I'll have to lay on you. But I think that our listeners have got a juicy tidbit of what's going on. And don't forget that we'll have all of your product links and all of your information in the show notes below.
I forgot about the tape. This is the Tourma tape, and I helped design the.
Is that sports tape?
That's Tourma Man there. He's going from the light energy into the virtual into the real world. He's emerging from the spectrum. This is what the tape looks like, and it looks like regular kinesio tape, but it has in the adhesive has Tourmaline, also has Tourmaline in the fabric too, and this really helps tremendously. But we're general health and wellness products. And our website is Tourma Health, Tourma, Tourma like in Tourmaline, tourmahealth.com. And we are developing a lot of other products. We have a balm, which I call the leaded and the unleaded version. The leaded has CBD in it also, and the unleaded has no CBD. We actually make it with 3 varieties. One is hemp seed oil, one is actually CBD oil from hemp, and the other one has nothing in it too, because some athletes are very apprehensive to use anything with CBD because they're afraid they might be, because CBD has in it the hemp oil like 0.3% THC.
Yeah.
There's a little smidgen of THC still in it, so they don't want to get positive drug tests, which is understandable.
Got it. Always a wealth of knowledge, always a pleasure to share time with you, Dr. Mike. And I hope you have a great day.
Yeah,
and
great day too. And
thank you to all.
After we sign off, because I want to find out where to send those products to you so you can experience yourself.
So I'm just going to sign off, and if you can just stay on the line for just a moment here, Dr. Mike. So absolutely. I just want to say to all of our listeners, I hope that you're enjoying all of these conversations with everybody and these ones with Dr. Mike. I think we're on to something, Dr. Mike. You and I both get so excited about some of the same things, but from different perspectives. Right. It's really, really fabulous. So I just want to thank our listeners for dropping in. Check Dr. Mike's show notes below to get to all of his fabulous Tourmaline products and to get to his Super Mike show on Roku. And until next time, happy healing.